Kurt, what's happening tomorrow?
Tomorrow we've got, it's MiamiTech week tomorrow, but it's always MiamiTech week. We're launching HexAir. We've got a lot of people coming in, so we're just going to give a pretty good show, a good party, and show what it's like to be at Hextronics.
So yeah, we call this MiamiTech Week, and welcome to Hextronics. This is a really special day for us. We knocked down the wall a couple of months ago and expanded and basically doubled our warehouse and our factory. Brittany also helped with the shirts for MiamiTech and MiamiTech Week 2025. What do you guys think about it? I think it's pretty fun. This is the first place that we moved into after the garage. What you see behind me right now are a new kind of production run that we're doing of our most powerful system. If you all had the pleasure of talking to Nick and getting a nice run through, it sounds like the little robots are going to be in demo mode for the entire speech. And so I kind of want to go into a little bit of depth in how we got here. So I'm from Miami myself, and the first kind of time I dabbled into anything entrepreneur-wise was in high school when I started a bike share alongside my high school Palmer Trinity for the city of Palmetto Bay. Worked so well, it gave a nice presentation. We established a wide variety of bikes, and it eventually got adopted by the county, and it was a nice award. It felt like the biggest thing that I've ever done in my life. And it brings me to the point of why kind of Miami and MiamiTech is so kind of different or special. I mean, Miami itself is a city where over 70% of the residents are imported, or they're from somewhere else. And Miami also has to deal with a wide variety of different ecological challenges, mainly hurricanes and sea level rise. And it's really got to build resilience in the culture of the city. And so I feel like the culture was manifested through me growing up, and something that we try to build here through our drone stations that we feel bring resiliency to drone in a box, or to drones themselves, because once they land and they're tired, you just got to keep going, swap the battery and get back up in the air. And that's what we've been demoing all today. I got into building these little robots that actually drove on the roof of restaurants. So I got into building little circuit boards, ESP32, motor driver, some voltage converters, a battery management system, as well as motors that would enable a robot to drive on these little tracks in the ceiling. First one I installed was in my own apartment, and I drilled into the roof of my apartment and still somehow got my safety deposit back. I was inspired by a world in motion, a world where there was robots moving around, doing things, contributing to society, not necessarily getting in the way of people, but contributing to how people experience the world, making it really feel exciting to be alive. I got addicted to making robots, and nothing could kind of stop me. The school basically said, there's no way we're going to let you install this unless you get approval from the school board, if you get approval from the fire marshal, approval from a professional structural engineer, and a professional electrical engineer. And I said, oh, that's it? I got the structural engineer approval. I had to make some beam diagrams, pull out these beam drawings from the 1940s, And so it was called Waiter. I eventually got the permits in order to install the system. It was fully operational, installed in this little restaurant, delivering to a few tables. We presented it on live television. My ego was like the size of the moon. It was great. But then the day after we presented this on TV, COVID came and shut down the entire world, and my dreams were shattered. They made me rip my robot tracks out of the ceiling of the restaurant, and I had to find something else to do. Well, if you can shut down a restaurant because of a pandemic, or you can shut down a business, there's one thing you can't really shut down, and that's the sky. So I want to be involved in the future of the sky, and drones live there. Started thinking about kind of like what a complete solution would look like for a world where drones were constantly scanning construction projects, delivering goods, and responding to emergencies. So in order for me, just this college student, to get into making an actual product that people could buy, I had to start getting really deep into hardware. I sketch a lot, really got into building this kind of first little prototype drone station, but then I had to fully commit. This was after graduating school and fully spent all of my time making this little drone station. So this was the first battery swapping drone station made by Hextronics that actually swapped the battery. We did so many different iterations, and eventually, after kind of moving out of Georgia Tech and graduating, here's Nick and I at graduation. I moved back home because we've got some pretty good prices of sheet metal down here in Miami. We started building this new system for drone autonomy, and we were really trying to think about the mechanics of the best way to solve this new problem that was kind of novel in the industry, of actually swapping the battery out of an aircraft so that it could continue its autonomous operations. Finding the best mechanisms and ways to do so in an efficient manner is something that consumed a lot of our brain power getting started. Initially, it was me and my dad in the garage, and then we recruited some interns from my high school. So actually, Bianca, who's here, you might have greeted her at the beginning. She was one of the first interns ever at Hextronics. And so this is us building our first set of drone stations in our garage in Homestead. We'll be flying from there later today. Trade shows were a key part in our development as Hextronics, because we went to this one show called AVSI, and we landed our first major order, which is really what inspired us to move out of the garage. Brittany also painted the entryway. Christian's here today. He was our first legitimate hire. Some say that the beginning of Hextronics was intense. We set up tents here in the background because it was hot in Miami in the summer. We didn't have air conditioning, but we did install air conditioning units inside of tents to keep them cool. So we say the beginning of Hextronics was intense. We ended up getting customers from all over the world. That's why we called it the Hextronics Global. And so some of our first customers were in Saudi Arabia. Here's some guys that helped me repair our first HVAC that shipped across the world. And we continued growing, and eventually our product became so well known. The city of Miami had us do a little tour around Miami Beach with it in the back of the truck. We continued developing and got to the point where we now had a very strong engineering capability, and really we're now looking for other customers in the market to hear what problems they needed solved. And a variety of different groups came to us and saying, I like what you built for the small system, for the global, but we want you to do something bigger for a larger aircraft that could really be more and more powerful for our use case. So this is at Hex Labs, we call it. This is the garage behind Nick. We tested the heck out of this system, deployed it for rail yards. It fit on the back bed of the truck. Nick asked why we had to design it so small so it could fit in the Hex truck. And we continue to deploy it across the world. This is me fixing it in Malaysia. This is essentially the continued development of the product being tested in a variety of different environments. Most of the time, this is Nick's face. He's the pragmatic one, the one that's has to deal with my hopes and dreams. So thank you, Nick. Let's see. Then we continued to hear different requirements. So we had a request to build a docking station for DoD-approved aircraft, the Paradenofi USA. What we realized is that these users wanted drone stations that can be applicable for a variety of different aircraft. So that's what created the Universal. Universal is one of our more recent products that services a variety of different drones, some produced by DJI overseas and some produced by NDAA-compliant manufacturers. Then we landed some pretty significant funding, which is something that is a key turning point in the life story of Hextronics. We were bootstrapped quite significantly, working on dog food floors, really understanding how to solve problems of customers in the most efficient way possible. And we still are at that today, but now with the resources being backed by Founders Fund, who closed out our seed round near the beginning of 2024. So this is a presentation we gave during Tech Week last year. So that's why this year is pretty exciting for us. We continue to develop on our circuit boards. We launched actually a system near the tail end of last year called HexTech, which is a small little developer board. This is Corey. He is the king of our software department, and he works harder than all of us combined, even everybody sitting here in this room. We continue to deploy our systems on rooftops across the world, really supporting large organizations for first response, oil and gas, and railroad inspection and security. And the main reason why we're all here today is to talk about a new capability that we've been developing here at Hextronics. Back in my apartment, had a great vision for a world in motion with aircraft flying around solving the world's problems. Built it all kind of initially in a garage in Miami and Homestead, expanded into the facility we're at now, built more products that are more powerful for customers across the world, created even more systems designed for a variety of different use cases and ability to work with federal and DoD use cases. We closed our seed round and continued to sign one of the largest drone-in-a-box contracts ever, which is the reason why we just expanded into this facility behind me to produce on the order of 50 of our Atlas drone stations. And so I want to talk a little bit about the brand. We have a logo that looked like a little drone flying within a box. We felt that it was time for us to come out of the box and not just be kind of constrained in hardware forever because there's a wide variety of problems that individuals need solved or people that want to build solutions on our technology that are limited by the large software lift that it takes to actually integrate with a fully automatic drone station. You actually have to be able to precisely land the aircraft every time in the docking station, and to do that is definitely no trivial feat and is a big blocker for a variety of different integrators. And so we turned to a new identity, or I guess an evolution of our existing identity, where it was our task to find some individuals that inspire us, maybe not the most conventional ones, but ones that help define the vision that we have for a future of Hextronics. The name Hextronics comes from hex, as in hexagons, or like the building block of life. Hexagons are the bestagons, and so hex is also like a curse, like a spell. And then tronics is like electronics. It's the actual reality that manipulates electrons moving along a circuit to make things move. And so Hextronics is where magic meets reality. People that we felt defined that, at least in our childhood growing up, was Morpheus, telling us that there's a deeper meaning. You can look deeper in understanding how the world works and really finding new ways to change the world. And Jack Sparrow, a little bit doing some things off the cuff, but really having unrelenting optimism and creativity and ingenuity in solving problems. Howard Stark, I know Tony is a big figure, but I think Howard really set Tony up for success. And I really just respect Howard and his dedication to the hardware game. Our logo, it looks a little bit like I see it sometimes as like a supernova from the side, like bursting out the edges, but also from inception, the totem that DiCaprio had that proved to him when it was lying on its side, he was living in reality. And I think that's important for me. at least. And yeah, we talked about HexTech. We'll talk about it a little bit more. It's really the way that we bring our magic into reality now through controlling our servos, our stepper motors, our DC motors, our limit switches in ways that really ties together the reliability that the systems need and the simplicity of how to build on top of it. Now, something that we're excited about showing off today, it's taking the remote out of remote control. Tiernan came up with that slogan. The product is called HexAir. It's the ability to fly a drone out of our drone station from anywhere in the world. HexAir, be here and there. Now, if you get a Hextronics product, you also have the capability of using the product with first-party native software that enables for easier integration and development on top of it. So we expose all of the APIs for builders to actually create the solutions, say for first response, for railroad inspection, for crop monitoring, for construction monitoring, all of these different niches where people have expertise that we probably won't be able to understand for a very long time, but really making that available to the most powerful and resilient run-in-a-box systems currently on the market that enable for the most uptime of an aircraft. This also comes with the capability for real-time video streaming, data upload, and storage. The way that we're able to do this initially is with our BVLOS waiver. A big blocker in the drone industry for quite some time was the ability to actually fly a drone that you couldn't necessarily see. We worked a lot with the team at the FAA, established a very strict concept of operations for actually using our drone technology, full stack, making sure your computer is connected to the internet, ensuring the aircraft has been validated with pre-flight inspection checks, and then making sure that there's a proper geofencing done around the aircraft so it cannot go into any unauthorized airspace. But the main thing that this enables is now anybody using Hextronics knows that since we were able to get the waiver, we'll be able to help them. And when they're getting started, it's really easy to use our waiver for the first 6 weeks of operation. So now I want to give a quick little demo. So from here, it's 20 miles. And this is my favorite thing because we can fly it from a phone, you can fly it from an iPad, you can fly it from a computer, you can fly it essentially from anywhere. So here is me in the cockpit down at Hex Labs, and I'm going to hit launch. So I do love the little hexagon that we have at the face of the uni. It's kind of like a covert branding, but it also is a nice little window to what's beyond. Here we are, we're up in the air, and I'm gonna take the sticks, and we're just going to raise up into this guy. So can anybody tell me what they're seeing on their phones? Are you getting the drone feed? Yeah, this is in Homestead. I'm taking manual control. I don't think we've ever had this many viewers. There we go. Able to fly from a phone. I've always kind of dreamed of doing this, and you'll see the design. It looks a little bit like you're playing a video game. The main thing is kind of, you've got in the top of the screen, you've got the heading of the aircraft, and then you've got the altitude, and you'll see we've got a battery percentage. And so this is where I grew up in Homestead in the Redlands, and the ability here that I like a lot is the zoom. So you can really go and check out. And now we can keep going. We've got a range right now of 2 miles from the docking station. And I'm gonna take it over to the farmlands. That's just on the south side. So then, once I'm done with the flight, I simply return back and I hit land. And so we were doing this just last week. We were across the pond in Ireland, and I was doing the same remote flight. And so with this, we've got 300 milliseconds of latency to the aircraft. And so that's with the WebRTC stream and then the controls. So sub 300 millisecond is still pretty much good enough to do whatever you need to do manually. And then things like submitting automated missions are things where I typically can't screw them up because the drone does all of the flying itself. Okay, and from here we can see the inside of the station. Live demos, everybody. This was our first live demo at Hextronics. All right, we'll watch it right now. It's gonna take the drone, it's gonna turn it off, and it's gonna swap the battery. So you'll see once the drone's off, it'll switch to the camera inside of the docking station. And then you'll see the little robot arm actually taking the battery out and putting in a new one. So the swap is our favorite part in the Universal, mainly because that's what its whole purpose is. It swaps the battery in about 60 seconds of the aircrafts that are inside. So right now we're flying the Anzu Raptor, produced in Malaysia. It's a similar spec to the Mavic 3, and then we're also compatible with another Modal AI drone. So I don't know if you know Modal AI, but they build on the Qualcomm chipset, which is a new processor that's open source, kind of like Linux, that enables for the next generation development of aircraft that we're seeing being deployed with NDAA compliant systems. And then we're also compatible with the Anafi USA. That's what our little Universal is swapping right here in between the Atlas and the Global. All right, that's a nice full swap. We won't hear the click because I don't have audio turned on here. But we did it. We completed our mission. I think it's time that we turn on the lights. Woo! Another live demo. We're 2 for 2. All right, everyone, we're starting with our first panel, Building Tech in Miami. It's my honor to have this great team here today of people building and creating the next generation of South Florida and Miami. We have Tyler Johnson, Rob Gonzalez, Drew Dorsey, and Ethan Loosebrook. And we're gonna get started with some self-introductions. If we can just go down and quickly just let me know, why you're here in Miami, and what do you do, and what are you building?
Excellent. Hi, everybody. Good to be here. This is awesome. I just want to say thank you for the invite, Kurt. This is great. I didn't know much about Hextronics before I came here, and to see this is just outstanding. And the turnout is awesome too. My name is Tyler Johnson. I've been in Miami for about 2.5 years now. I work for an organization called eMERGE Americas. Many of you probably know or have heard of eMERGE or have attended. I run the defense and dual use programming there, so the government piece. I put all that together, so I bring in DoD entities, innovation arms, and various universities and other entities that are looking to mix between private and public sector. The second thing that I do is I'm in the venture world, so I'm part of an organization called Stony Lonesome Group, and we do direct investments into defense and dual use companies. So I help connect the dots, and you're one of the dots, and there are many others. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
So my name is Roberto Gonzalez. I'm the County Commissioner for District 11, which is where we're at right now for Miami-Dade County. I feel like Miami-Dade County, it used to be a leader in aerospace technology. It used to be a leader in aerospace in general, and then somewhere along the line, people stopped caring, and we let Atlanta take our lunch money, we let Alabama take our lunch money, and I want to see a change in that. We have so many schools that are free right here in Miami-Dade County that will train young students to go into school when you're in 9th grade, come out in 12th grade, 0 student loan debt, with the training as an airframe power plant mechanic, as a pilot for an aircraft, and or as an air traffic controller. I'm bringing all of that education to Miami Executive Airport. The reason I want to do that is to create a pipeline, because I happen to think that aerospace, everything that has to do with aerospace and space technology, is the future of humankind. We want to bring as many jobs as possible to Miami-Dade County, and we want to be pioneers. Why try to build Silicon Valley when you can build the next Silicon Valley?
Hello everyone, my name is Drew Dorsey. I'm born and raised here in Miami. I run a real estate private equity firm. We, for the most part, invest in Miami-based businesses and property. We specialize in all things retail, suburban and urban, multifamily, and luxury residential, be it houses, townhouses, or condos. So growing up here for the part of my life, it's been very fascinating to see the change, quite rapid change that Miami's been going through. So very happy to be a part of it and continue to build communities and businesses that kind of thrive in different suburbs and markets within here.
Hi everyone, I'm Ethan Loosbrod. I'm the founder of Oros. We're building next generation batteries here in Miami. I guess to answer Kurt's question why I'm here is because Miami, in my view, is the most business-friendly, business-forward city in the United States, and I think it's just growing that gap between many of the other major metropolitan areas.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. And yeah, I just want to kind of jump right into that topic, which is how is or how could Miami be more welcoming to talent, tech companies, venture capital, and larger scale real estate development?
So I think that's a great question, and I just got back from DC, but I also got back from the state, and I'm going to tell you why those two things are important, right? First and foremost, are you folks familiar with Space Florida? Space Florida is an initiative that Governor DeSantis has had in order to bring as much space technology down to Florida. As a matter of fact, I met with Byron Donalds on the House side, and I also met with Ashley Moody and Senator Rick Scott. There's a big push to try to see if we can get NASA to come to Central Florida. Now, regardless of whether that's going to happen or not, the buzz within itself is something that I think is spectacular for Florida, but also for Miami-Dade County. If you've been following the president and tariffs, what's going to happen in this country is we're going to have to increase manufacturing. So how can we be friendly towards businesses? Well, I met with Jay Collins, who's a senator in Florida. Jay has filed a bill that is set to pass the Senate and the House next week. That bill gives huge tax incentives for engineering and aerospace firms right here in Miami-Dade County, right? All throughout Florida, but I want you guys to remember Miami-Dade County because I represent Miami-Dade County. Now, let's talk about Space Florida. Space Florida, in most cases, and when you meet certain requirements, if you are an aerospace type company, okay, and you invest in what's called a spaceport designated area, you can receive up to a 50% reimbursement for your investment. So you invest $5 million, you can get $2.5 million back. Along with Jay Collins' bill, we're talking about huge incentives. I've already started a push to designate Miami Executive Airport, which is Miami Airport, into a spaceport. More importantly, though, about a year ago, Homestead Air Force Base has already been designated into a spaceport. So what we have down here in Miami is a lot of land that's designated as a spaceport with plenty of incentives for new aerospace and or space manufacturing companies to have great incentives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to build. And what do you think?
Programs are great, rebates are great, doubling money down is great, policies are awesome. I think, my perspective is I moved here about 2.5 years ago from Austin, Texas, and I saw the big influx of the defense and the dual use and the building that happened within Austin and what it created for the economy. And when I moved here, I noticed that Miami and South Florida had a better platform to better scale longer term than Austin does. So Austin's going through some growing pains right now, but I think Miami's got the infrastructure to actually build. And what do I mean by that? So if you look at the number of students in the 3 counties, I think there's 10 universities, 170,000 plus students that are here in South Florida. We can tap into that, no problem. We've got, what, 2.7 billion in funding, in venture funding that's happened over the last year, and that's only growing. That's huge. The other big thing, though, is access points. So between Miami-Dade or Miami International and Florida airports, you can reach over 160 cities directly worldwide. That's huge because a city like Austin doesn't have that. Miami's got that. And why is that important? So if you look at the strategies for defense for the future, for DIU 3.0 or some of the strategies going forward, we're going to have to partner with a lot of nations that are out there. We can't do it all ourselves, but we also want to create business and pathways into partner nations that are out there. And in order to do that, we've got to have access and we've got to have a location that we can do that with. And so what a better place to do that here in Miami and South Florida, to build all of this infrastructure and make it useful for everybody.
Hell yeah.
Let's go.
All right, second panel is starting now, and we're going to hear from the team right here at Hextronics. We've got Nick Molka, Daniel Ster, and Corey Matias. What I want to do to get started, I work with you guys every day, so these guys don't know too much about you or what you do or who you are, so if you introduce yourself a little bit and say a little bit about what you do here at Hextronics.
So I'm Nicholas Molka. I'm a co-founder here at Hextronics. Came here about 3.5 years ago. Been in charge of the Atlas product ever since, and my responsibilities have only grown since I've been here. What I do on a day-to-day, I kind of run around like a crazy person, you know, and the team definitely knows that. But ultimately, just whatever we need to do to make sure that the product is working as it should be working, you know, squashing bugs out in the field, making sure that we're able to produce the most elegant possible solution possible. You know, I work with all the different teams here, from the electrical, software, and hardware and production side of things. You know, specifically on the Atlas primarily, to make sure that the system is kind of operating and orchestrating as well as it can.
Hello, my name is Daniel Richter, and I've been in charge of the machine Universal. I came here 3 years ago, and it's been very interesting. I've been always been involved in the production, improving everything. Testing is very important for me too, to make the machine as reliable as possible, and doing training also. But mostly I've been focused on the Universal, my baby, I guess. Well, it's the first baby, but I guess in the mom.
Yeah, I mean, you just had a baby yourself, so
That's right.
yeah.
So there you go.
Hey, I'm Corey, software engineer here at Hextronics. You know, I got to join, I think it was a year ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that. But so, as a hardware company originally, lots of what we had done was building out the software to make the stations run. You know, it's what the things that makes the motors move, things to say swap pattern, it doesn't swap pattern. I was brought on, one, just, you know, as a hardware first company, got to try to get the software up to snuff a little bit, because what does it take to really get all the bugs out of it. But also start building software products, like that demo we saw earlier from HexAir. Hope it didn't get to watch that, I was too busy watching everything on purpose. But, you know, so as we're trying to make this push from just, here's hardware that does things in the world. That's what I'm excited about, and also been doing a lot to make happen.
Yes, very busy, all of us. And yes, we got them both. We got the lights on, so the HexTech worked, and we landed. We did it. And so, if you'll tell us just a little bit, why did you join Hextronics?
So I joined Hextronics, you know, relatively early on. I knew Kurt in college, and so we both were kind of like working on our own projects. We worked together on a couple projects together, and you know, like I was thinking in the back of my head, like I'm gonna end up working with this guy at some point. And you know, so through my time at Tech, you know, like I was building robotic systems, electromechanical systems. I definitely had an interest in that, and so the extracurriculars that I took and the courses that I took were definitely focused on that. And so when Kurt reached out to me and was like, we're building this drone system company down in Miami, it was kind of a no-brainer for me to jump onto a part of the team.
And while I'm here, the money, I guess.
Okay, must be
But
good.
no, it's in rare occasions you have the opportunity to work on hardware like this, especially in Miami at least. And being a startup, thought there was a lot I could help to make Hextronics better, and I think I've been doing it well. And there's a lot more to do, but I can see the difference, not only me, but in the entire team. And that's why I'm here. Like, it's exciting. It's very interesting. Nowhere else you can play with robots and stuff and drones. That's cool. It's just cool.
Mm-hmm.
One word, just cool.
It's just cool.
I'm probably going to combine both of those answers. So Nick and I were co-founding the robotics team back in high school, and he did hardware and software. I would want to work with that guy someday. But, instead of like a hardware for a bit, I'm the software guy at a hardware company. How'd that happen? And it's because look, I could go off and build an X-ray NoSQL database running on Alpha infrastructure, whatever, on the blockchain, Uber but for cats. Or I can make motors move, I can make drones fly, watch from around the world. That demo, the one we saw earlier, we tested that from Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
We were blowing it the first time around. That's cool. That's much cooler than a lot of things people in my field do. Be able to be like, okay, this isn't just bits, this isn't just information. This is stuff in the real world. That's really neat. Like, I've done industrial automation type work before, which not quite as fast paced, not quite as fun. This is great. This is so great.
I love working with you every day. All of you, each one of you. Yeah. All right. Now, what is one of the most difficult problems that you've solved at Hextronics?
So from an engineering standpoint, I would say the most difficult problem was just the overall system design of the Atlas. And this is a problem that I'm still kind of butting up against today. This is something, like 3.5 years ago, it was just like, okay, how are we going to make this all fit together? And from, it looks pretty elegant now, and I guess simplicity out of elegance now, but in the early days, it made a lot more loud noises. And like ultimately, like there were so many different features of the system design that influence other parts of the system. So for example, the angle of the rotor folding guides on the box right now ends up influencing the depth of the roof, which influences the weight of the roof, which influences the size of the motor that we need to put to drive the roof, which influences the size of the motor driver that we need to use to drive the roof, and like everything's connected together. The same thing for like where the battery rack is placed inside of the system. That needed to be kind of intercepting the landing pad a little bit, and so because it's co-constrained in there, the amount of landing pad area that's taken up by the battery rack influences the amount of precision landing area that we have, but it also influences like how big our centering mechanism needs to be, influences how big the gantry needs to go to a maximum extension distance, a minimum retraction distance, influences how big the gantry has to be, which again determines the size of the motor, which determines the size of the motor controller that's needed. So it's, it's this big complicated web of things that are kind of all tied together. And that problem, was a difficult one to start, and it's still one that like we're dealing with the consequences of today, because we're now producing these stations, and it's like, okay, if we need to do an upgrade, how do we ensure that this new upgrade is going to be retrofittable to old stations and still be able to cut into our current production lines? And so dealing with a hardware product out in the field, there's a ton of constraints that are on there that you wouldn't necessarily think that you would have to deal with on the onset, that we're still kind of working through every single day going forward. And then that's definitely been the most difficult thing that I've had to deal with here.
Oh, like you change something, and then you have to change something, and then you have to change something. Annoying. Biggest challenge is usually it's like Kurt gave me a drum, make it work for the universal. And there was one drone that nobody can figure out how to change the battery. Like, you need two hands. Like, you need two hands to do it, and it's weird. And I had to figure out a way, and I think that was the biggest challenge, to work with that drone and make it people see like, wow, I never thought how would you do that? Like, you figure it out. I think that was the biggest challenge. You know what drone I'm talking about?
Yeah, so that one, it had like a little latch you had to pull down, and you solved it.
You cannot grab it. You should do it from the other side. It's weird.
But you like grip underneath the latch infrastructure.
I can have another round with this and do this. You need to simplify stuff, and I think to simplify that design was really hard. Biggest challenge.
Yeah, so sometimes when they're solving constraints, like, I can't fit a stepper motor on the roof of the Atlas. I'm going to put a brush DC motor running next to a USB line and wonder why USB cuts out after they move the roof for 8 months. And then you have to retrofit it. Oh, let's put some ferrite beads out in the field. Okay, but it didn't work on this one. This one has a weird right angle adapter. Somehow it seems like my biggest challenge is the software here half the time is solving what the hardware people why is the motor going off every 5 minutes exactly? Maybe I didn't hit the 5 minute timer on C++. Just saying. It's easier to OTA software than hardware, so I would have to fix some of that too. I guess you can OTA hardware, but it's more of a spirit flight than like an alloy. Go OTA Hextronics. But the other fun one, if we're talking something maybe more in my field, was we had to reverse engineer quite a bit of the DJI system to actually be able to interface with it. So I just remember this one week, we got a handful of all of us around a bunch of screens, have gotten USB packet captures off of the connection to the battery charger. Like, can we just read the battery concept off this thing? No one else can do it. DJI can, at least. They say they can. Don't have time to remote controllers will work with it, but ours works every time. It's sad that, like, we'll look at this HexAir and just, I think this part does this. That was cool. Because then that's immediately feedback into everything else everyone else does. You know, it's a combined hardware software system. You know, their motor choice influences just how miserable my Saturdays are going to be.
That roof motor issue is the bane of our existence right now. The thing that he opened with has been like an extensive problem that like we've had to deal with for like so long, which is the fact that one little motor in the box creates noise that like propagates through the rest of the system and like shuts down various parts of the system randomly. And so this is something that we had to do, like the Rufo repair kit on, like we branded it inside of the company, and it was like this big, I guess, tour de force to try to resolve issues from something that we could have never predicted in the beginning when we were creating it.
Yeah, it's like, look, there's other ways to solve something like that. You can make the sheet metal on the roof bigger, and then you have to ship to people that it's a very expensive package to ship, and then God forbid you have to have one customer say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to install a roof on the Atlas. And then it's when they say, so how long does the warranty last? That's all. Yeah, we can change all sorts of things, but that's part of the software can build whatever sort of strange combination of things you want. If it's allowed by math, if you're doing computational math, you can do it. And then the real world says, well, maybe metal just doesn't fit that way. Maybe the motor actually has inertia to it, like a spherical motor in a vacuum. No, this one actually, it's got move stuff around. So we play on both sides.
Yeah, sometimes the hardest software problem is hardware. I would just like to ask, what's one of your favorite customer stories or requirements that you've dealt with? So
there's a ton of them I could talk about right now, and I'll just briefly glaze over a couple of them. Given our background and just kind of like the scrappiness of the company in the past, I mean, there's a lot that we've had to do to just kind of like patch things together. I think one of the stories that was fun was, delivering the very first Atlas on site to like a Fortune 500 company and presenting it and demoing it in front of their COO, like pretty much within the same year of this coming into fruition and this being a product. And like the stress of that was crazy. The product that was like functional to the point where it was going to work for them, but like again, we've still been developing for another couple of years on that. So it was balancing the requirements of getting product out the door versus getting it perfect there. There was a couple fun ones like bouncing around to Dubai and Malaysia and doing on-site deployments. What you saw in the pictures earlier of Kurt, crawling around in the back of an Atlas, like fixing it in Malaysia, which has been a really good experience too. It's allowed us to see a ton of different areas around the world and interface with these customers, which has been really great. I would say the one that definitely I'm most proud of is the revamp of the Atlas that we did last year, which was to make it satisfy public safety requirements. So beforehand, the full cycle time of the Atlas took between 8 to 10 minutes, and that was land, battery swap, and power on drone and launch. And they said that in order to deploy this for our applications, we need this to get back up in the air within 2 minutes of landing. And so, because they needed to get back on site for the eyes in the sky and observability of what was going on with their crime scene or whatever that they needed. So that was a big overhaul that was done, I think, mid last year or the year before, which was making the entire system go from 8 to 10 minute full cycle time to a 2.5 to 2 minute full cycle time. And that one was fun. And the product works a lot better now, and it's kind of like a full symphony of hardware and something that we can be proud of, I feel like, now.
Customer stories. Mostly, I think when the client, I can see the client showing how they enjoy the product. Because usually we are here, we don't see the client, and when I talk with customer support, the people like those, it's nice when I get in contact with the customer in some way that they're happy. And for example, he gave me one story like Colombia. They have the unit, they have 2 units, and they've been working for every day for the past year, and they're super happy with. They have an oil company, and it's helping to expand their business. And it's nice when you see that kind of stuff, with that kind of contact, when you see that this is not only us, we're making a better world in some way. So that kind of story, for example, click in my head. But obviously there are so many around the world enjoying our products that are super cool.
And it's nice to hear when customers are happy about the product, because usually we just hear when there's a problem.
That's true.
Customer requirements. Usually with software, so first you're like, okay, you've got a legacy software system, you've got to keep that going. It's been around a while, but the fun one was data transfer. You had to get faster data transfer out of the drone to build a flight software. So they're like, okay, can we build a robotic thing to hold the SD card out? Bring up the guy. That's not fair. So we can't do that, okay. So the Wi-Fi transfer is way too slow. You put a multi-$1,000 Wi-Fi transponder on there, not going to fit anyway. You can't carry it around in flight. So that's when we figured out, hey, wait, here's a hardware and software solution. We can plug a USB thing into the charging port on the drone in the rear, the back plug, as it were. And then so we've gone from this sort of strange customer requirement of, okay, let's catch the takeoff faster. Now, short pulling USB port now will do the fastest anyone can. But it's only possible because it's not just sitting here trying to write code, go faster. We can make some changes. We can go both ways. And Daniel helps a bunch with that.
Yeah, that's a tough one. So that's kind of hardware and software working together, and
It always is like a puzzle. I mean, just one puzzle, but there's so many puzzles that needs to be together to make a great product.
So what's the most valuable thing that you've learned at Hextronics?
So this is something that I learned while being here, and I'm still learning. But there's only so many hours in the day. At some point, you're going to need to expand out, and in order to scale, rely on your team to build the product out. And so being able to effectively inspire other people to work on a problem, being able to say, okay, this is why we're trying to accomplish this goal. Here's kind of what the vision is, and then having the faith in your team to kind of work towards the vision and that product that you're trying to do is definitely one of the biggest things that I've learned here, and I think is going to be kind of critical towards us continuing to grow out in the future.
The main thing that I learned is working with multiple people, because I used to make projects for myself all the time, but I do software, hardware, everything. But doing it with different people that do different stuff and have a different opinion, that kind of dynamic, I think, is the main thing I learned, because companies usually are very complex. And since it's a startup, it's more hands-on and you have to do basically everything. But hey, you have a team of software especially, you have many requirements, and talking to different people so that they have different opinions. I think that's the main thing I learned, that different opinions about different stuff. You need to take into account. You take it for granted if you do a project, it's not the same, but I think it's the main thing.
The thing that I've kind of had to learn with it is, done quite a bit of software. I've even done some, I don't want to say robotic, but industrial type things before. But the reliability you need when it's something you can run out in the parking lot and get, it's a different level of reliability than you need when you're about to put it in some very strange place on a roof, on top of the police department in Scottsdale, Arizona, and then the thing goes wrong. And it's like, great. Just how do you design a system to deal with that 1 in 100 edge case? Hopefully not 1 in 100. 1 in a million. But when it's a mechanical system and the wind's blowing and the heat's high, and now all of a sudden the memory on the computer's going wrong because it's so hot, But just that level of reliability is a very different thing from software in the cloud out to this is moving motors, sitting on customer premises, oh, and their internet just went out and that freaked out the weather forecast service, and I could tell some stories there. But it's a different sort of world doing software when it's put out some restraint, not data center.
Real world. Yeah, you can't OTA hardware. That's a spirit play.
Actually, I thought Spirit was doing isn't Jet doing now? Like, what are they doing? Maybe still Spirits?
I thought the merger got blocked. But yeah, anyways, come to a hardware company, you learn hardware is hard and people are even harder.
I think people count as hardware in my world.
Okay, fair enough. All right, that's all the questions I've got for us today. So yeah, thank you all for joining us and being here and working with me and putting up with my crazy events. That's the show. We've pretty much showed you the hardware that we've built. We did 2 live demos today. It's as good as it can get. It's a real Tech Week event. We've got hardware, we've got software demos. And we've got panels of people in the tech industry. So I really appreciate you all for joining. And I think the main aspect that I try to convey is that Hextronics is really open to working with people, being a part of the community. And we really work to instill that in our products and the capabilities and values that we support as a company. Because I really think that, yeah, you can go fast alone, but you can go a lot further together. And I think that's the energy that we're trying to build. I know it's an ever-changing world. There's uncertainty left, right, and center, but as long as you can buckle down and focus on something that you love, then you can actually create something amazing. I want people to see drones in the air and say, hell yeah, what are we building? And that's the kind of inspiration and the feeling that I want people to have with drones and being connected to understanding their world at a deeper level. And I think that we get there together, and so hopefully I'm here in 5 years with all of you, and we're thinking a little bit differently about the world. We did it! Happy Tech Week!
Just happened, dude.
Sì,